Now, hours after a damning report by the Kenya Human Rights Commission calling for the scrapping of the Hustler Fund, the government has come out to defend the program. The Ministry of Cooperatives and MSMEs says the report is misleading, politically motivated and rushed. But the KHRC report titled "Failing the Hustlers" accuses the fund of mass loan defaults, poor design and loss of billions in taxpayer money, while warning that the fund has failed in its core mandate. NTV's David Mudhoka has the details.
The Hustler Fund has failed and should be scrapped. That's the damning conclusion of a new report by the Kenya Human Rights Commission, which accuses the government of presiding over an opaque, poorly designed fund that has cost taxpayers billions with little to show. Launched in November 2022 with a startup capital of 50 billion shillings, the Financial Inclusion Fund, popularly known as Hustler Fund, was intended to provide affordable credit to low-income Kenyans and MSMEs. But by December 2023, the report says over 9.6 billion shillings had been disbursed with no measurable impact on enterprise development or job creation. The report also raises concern over loan amounts and repayment terms. KHRC notes that loan sizes ranging from 500 to 1,000 shillings were too small to start or grow businesses. Repayment terms of 14 days were unrealistic, and disbursements were poorly matched to actual financial needs. According to the report, the default rate stood at 68.3%, and there was no regulatory framework for loan recovery, with estimated total cost to the taxpayer reaching 71.5%. The Commission also flags serious transparency issues. KHRC states the Office of the Auditor General could not render an audit opinion, citing missing documentation and unsupported transaction. KHRC adds the fund's politicized structure and centralized control made it disconnected from communities and vulnerable to abuse, and therefore attempts to reform or engineer the fund will not address these fundamental design, political and legal flaws.
Why do we continue to put money in a fund, yet we cannot fund basic needs like education and health?
The cure is to drain the swamp. So let us not waste our time thinking about the management of these funds. The funds are unconstitutional. You have got no business managing unconstitutional things.
I thought Okia Mujata and the Senator of Busia, when did he become a judge to declare the fund illegal?
But the Ministry of Cooperatives and MSMEs Development has rejected the report, saying it only focused on the initial months of the fund's rollout and thus misleading and politically driven.
So we read a lot of malice, looking at the timing of the release and also the fact that they never actually approached us.
At the onset of the Kenya Kwanza regime, the Hustler Fund was touted as one that will not only transform businesses but also create millions of employment. However, in their response to the report by KHRC, the Cabinet Secretary and the Principal Secretary in charge of MSMEs fell short of discussing the real numbers and the real statistics of how many lives the fund has not only touched but transformed. Their failure to do so now intensifies the debate as to whether Hustler Fund has been a success or a failure. David Mudhoka, NTV, Nairobi.